Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurudeva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidyat Ravitam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma viddhishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hello. So Mark is hosting, so I think we're fine.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Traffic today?
Yeah, and I headed out a little later than I would have liked.
Remember my favorite prayer. Oops. So at 11:20, if sirens come on, I think they said it was going to last a minute. So we can just pause the recording and hang out and then listen to it again when we're done. Or turn it back on when it's over. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are we in our text?
We're on verse
29.
29. Okay. Maya hastina maruhya Maya veko yatha vrajet agachhasta dvadevatma pranaswapna digochalaha. Just as a magician comes and goes on an elephant created by his own magic, so the self, though devoid of all motion, appears to be undergoing conditions such as the undifferentiated, dream, etc.
So there are a couple philosophies around this. The idea that God creates a world and the world is solid and real and moves about, and there's a relationship between the creator and the creation with the creatures in it. That is not the way Vedanta sees it. And remember, this is not just philosophy. This is rooted in direct experience. So what Shankara is saying here is that consciousness itself is immovable. It is one without a second. It is kutusta, established and still like a mountain. Vijnana Ghanam, as Mandukya says, a homogeneous mass of pure consciousness. Yet it has an inherent property to have images arise in it. So I like to say, if I go into the bathroom and look in the mirror, there's a fat old man there. If Aditi goes into the bathroom and looks in the mirror, there's an attractive young woman there. The mirror undergoes no change. It is sthita. It is still, it's established. But it's its nature to reflect. The crystal ball. I hold it up and you look at it, you see images upside down in it. Are the images there or not? Well, they certainly appear. So what Vedanta thunders is, when I look out at this world of name and form, what's there? It's consciousness and consciousness alone. Not only what appears as my body, mind, intellect, and ego, but the cosmos that I see. Now, who's doing the dreaming? Ishvara is doing the dreaming. The locus of Maya is Brahman itself. It's its nature to do this. So, what's the practice that's implied? So, Thursday night, we just finished in the qualifications of a fit student, going through Shama, Dhamma, and Uparati. Shama, that peaceful state of mind when it rests in steady contemplation of the goal after having again and again detached itself from the chaos of the sense objects through a steady observation of their defects. What are the doshas he's talking about? They have a beginning and an end. They're subject to change. They're always confined to the waking dream or deep sleep state. Most importantly, they are objectively known. This is what Swamiji used to call tuning up the mind. Yama, keeping the sense organs residing in their sense centers, not letting the mind extrovert. Upadati technically means sense withdrawal. It's the same as the pratyahara of the Raja Yogis. You sit in meditation and you're able to pull your senses within. But then Shankara subtilizes, further defines that is the best upadati as when you're functioning among the sense objects and they don't create any vrittis in the mind. Keeping the mind densely introverted, not superimposing stories and likes and dislikes and comparisons with the past and projections in the future. The more we thin the mind, tanu manasa, the world starts to thin out for us. Stop the mind. Stop the world. Then when the mind returns, it's not so much that the world is no longer available for perception. but we see it for what it is. Best example of this is when R2-D2 projects the hologram of Princess Leia. You can't take a lightsaber and cut down the hologram of Princess Leia. Why? Seen, but not real. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's a hologram. So all this world is nothing but Brahman. Brahman never leaves its nature. All the craziness is my mind's projection on it. This is why Vedanta thunders. It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cost, those disturbances take two forms. I want this, I want this, I want this, or I hate that, I hate that, I hate that. I'm the one who's projecting. Doesn't mean the world doesn't show up. That's Ishvara's projection. But it's inherently neutral. So ego says, whack the world around, make it try to behave to fit my stupid mind. Yoga says, be empty. Let the sense data just pass through. Very important practice. So we not only want to do discrimination between the self and the not self to see that I am witnessing consciousness, but how do I see the self in and through the world? That's to dial down the tyranny of the mind's reaction to it. How? Understanding what's going on. This detachment, this vairagya, is accomplished through insight, not suppression. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Na hasti na tadarurho maya vyanyo yathastitaha na pranadi na tadrishta tatha kyonya sadhadrishahi. Just as in the above example, there is no elephant nor its driver, but there stands the magician different from them. So there are no undifferentiated, etc., nor their knower. The witness, which is always of the nature of pure consciousness, is different from them.
Yes. So here he uses the word magician. Modern times, I would probably use the word illusionist, stage hypnotist. So if you go to Las Vegas and see a stage show and someone's hypnotized into thinking that the lady gets cut in half or that they're a chicken or something like that, the mind has this enormous capacity to create an image, a superimposition, and it seems so real. But when the stage hypnotist brings you out of the trance, where does the illusion go? Gone. It isn't resolved. It's gone. So too, this jiva bhavana, this feeling that I'm a person, is created by the mind. And when it arises, always a goal arises. And the third element, struggle. Vedanta says, stop it. Tune up your mind. Introvert your attention. Notice. Koham, who am I? See that ego, that Jim, that Mark, that Aditi, it falls. It's gone. What's real is what's left. Pure awareness, the witness of everything. Back to Viveka Chudamani, in this section we're going through the qualifications of a fit student. Before he dives into the 4 qualifications, Shankara uses the word medha, which means a keen memory, retention. The exoteric meaning is being able to spout shlokas from scripture, mantras from scripture. That can be of value. What would you use to tell us to memorize certain sections? But the deeper and more important understanding of medha is to remember to apply the teaching at the appropriate time in my vyavahara, my transactional life. So I'm out there in the world and some person, place, thing, or situation upsets me. Do I remember? It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, I'm the one with the klesha. No! You are a jerk! You are mean! You are not meeting my needs! You are the problem. Do we do that? We may not say it out loud, but we sure as hell think it. And our discrimination is gone. So important to be able to remember. I'm upset. Oh, I must have an attachment or an identification. Disregarding the other person entirely. Disregarding the situation entirely. And deal with that later. But first, remember who you are. Nama Satyam Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real. Phenomenal world is illusory. Then once I remember that, oh, that's right. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that partless Brahman. Now, vairagya, that desire to give up attachment, to all experiences gained through the senses. That means what my husband or wife says. That means what the politics are saying. That means what the doctor says. And that desire to drop any personal sense of self. Yeah, but the feeling is still there. I'm frightened. I'm sad. I'm angry. Okay, just another one of the Lord's forms. Just sit there in the corner, be present to it, but don't believe it, and don't hook the I pronoun on it. I am sad. He did it. I am angry. She did it. Don't get caught up in the siren call of the why. Can't remember the island in Greek mythology where the sirens live, but they would call to the sailors. The sailors would sail towards them, the island, and get dashed on the rocks and destroyed. So someone with insight would have to tie the sailors to the mast of the ship. All of this is allegory about the spiritual life. The siren call of ego says, come to your destruction. Come get dashed on the rocks of stupidity. And what do? Get lashed to the mast of meditation. In time, the boat of your life will sail past the island. Boy, that was a toughie. All right, next verse.
Abadthashcho nasti maya vinopiva Badhakshasyeva sa maya amaya vyeva tato bhavet. There is no magic for the people of right vision, nor for the magician himself. It is only for the people of clouded vision that magic exists. Hence, one, not really a magician, wrongly appears to be so.
So this is an interesting point. For the stage hypnotist, he sees the person running around the stage. He knows that the person's not a chicken. The person who's not hypnotized in the audience, he knows the fellow on the stage isn't a chicken. It's only the deluded one who thinks he's a chicken. Now there's a deep implication here. Shanahu, listen carefully. In truth, the self is never deluded. In truth, you right now experience completely the self. It's the mind that gets messed up. So, just for the sake of illustration, did you have a difficult morning?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you cease to exist?
No.
Were you conscious of the difficulty?
Yes.
I am, I shine. And if you'd bother to inquire, you would see no sorrow touched yourself. Did you know that you existed?
Yes.
You were experiencing the Swayam Jyoti, the self evidence, the self effulgence of the self. But on top of that was, I am Jim. I am this, I am that. I'm so upset. I mean mine, I mean mine, I mean mine. And the weirdness of it is in the mind will say, I don't know the self. I, Jim, need to go study Vedanta so I can know the self out there. Have you experienced the self? Oh no, I haven't experienced the self. Who is it who thinks they haven't experienced it? Me. So for the person of wisdom, do you realize what you're saying makes no sense? Listen carefully. We do not actually gain an experience of the self. We remove the self. That must be our thing. Let me turn this off. There, it worked. Can you guys in Zoom land still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It just went on my phone. That's the only device. Cool. So we remove the obfuscation of the deluded, confused mind. And then the substratum is what's left. It's very clear. I run around and I am, I know, I shine, but I think I'm Jim. So I stop. I tune up the mind. I just listen to the traffic. Who here? What happened to Jim? Oh. I went nowhere. Just this Jiva Bhavana, this thought that I am Jim. Oh, I got so identified this morning. Oh, I was so plugged in and so triggered. Did you know it? Oh, yeah. How were you yesterday? Oh, I was just, it's clear. So you see egoism rise and fall. Can't be you. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Sakshadveva sadigyeha sakshadatmeti cha shruteha vidyate hyadaya granthirn chedityadita shruteha. The self should be regarded as Brahman in accordance with the Shrutis. The self is immediate. All knots of the heart are torn asunder. If not, so on and so on.
So the scriptures thunder. I am Atma Brahma. This self is what Brahman is. It's the ground of everything. And it's immediate. It's me. One of the things I like to say, the self is difficult to realize, not because it's far away or in some wackadoodle mind state. It's because of its profound ordinariness. It is the most present dimension of your entire being. Think, if God is omnipresent, that means I'm experiencing it all the time. God is a changeless reality. What about me is a changeless reality? God is all knowing. What about me is always knowing? Aham, ah. Swamiji used to frame it this way. God is both transcendental and immanent. So, we take the Voyager spacecrafts. They've now left the solar system. They're going on to interstellar space. In perhaps billions of years, will they ever reach the edge of the universe? Well, we got a problem. The universe is expanding faster than the speed of light. Or Voyager will never reach the end of the universe. So our instruments of knowledge, any extension of our senses, we can never know that which is beyond the known universe. But God is also immanent, meaning Brahman pervades the phenomenal world. So, what about me? Well, my butt's in the creation. So therefore, God pervades me. What about me? Partakes of the nature of God. Meaning, what is beginningless and endless? What is changeless? What is eternal? What is omnipresent, always there? Omniscient, the knower of everything in every field of experience. It's not my body. It's not my understanding. It's not any feeling. It's not any experience. Closer than hand or foot. Closer than your breath. Closer than your innermost thought. It's your very experience of I. But that's so common, so present, so always here. But I miss it. Even though I'm directly experiencing it all the time. It's immediate, the scripture says. Yet in a mind covered by ignorance, I don't know the self. I'm not Brahman, I'm a worm. My direct experience. This is what the scriptures thunder. Now, we have scriptural passages that have what we call upasana, meaning devotional practices for those whose minds are not subtle enough to grasp this. So, for example, at the end of Kathopanishad, the scripture says, meditate on the self as a flame the size of your thumb in your heart. Oh, I've seen the self. I've been visualizing a flame in my heart the size of my thumb. I saw it. Oh, that's the self. No. That's simply a devotional practice for those whose minds are too close to understand the deepest import of the scripture. But the foolish get confused. Back in the old-timey days, David may remember this. When you'd go to the Siddha Yoga ashram down on San Pablo with Baba Muktananda, everybody was supposed to meditate and try to see the blue pearl in your third eye. Have you seen the blue pearl yet? Have you seen the blue pearl? I'm getting somewhere if I see the blue pearl. It's upasana. I'm not saying it's not a value. Yourself is not a blue pearl that you see in meditation. Who is it who sees a blue pearl? Or a big one? Or a new pearl? What is the eternal factor? It is immediate. It's me. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Ashabdaditvato nastya grahanam chendriye bhavet sukhadibhya sthathanya tvad yapapi katham bhavet. Objection. It is not perceived by the senses as it is devoid of sound, etc. Again, how can it be perceived by the intellect as it is different from pleasure, and so on?
So the scriptures say it is not knowable through the known instruments of perception. And yet it says in the subtle intellect, realize yourself. That seems like a contradiction in terms. Let's see how Shankara resolves it.
Adrishyo bi yatha rahu chandre bimbam yatham hasi sarvagopi tathevatma buddhaveva sagrihyate. Reply. Just as Rahu, though invisible, is seen in the moon during an eclipse, and the reflections of the moon, etc., are seen in water, so the self, though omnipresent, is perceived in the intellect.
So what actually happens, the technical term is called pratyabhinyanam, which means recognition. So we have two things going on here. What is the instrument that knows the self? The self knows the self. How do you know you are you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself. Even if you have the thought, oh, I'm the self. That's not the direct experience. In a mind made very quiet, made very still, with the attentive faculty of the mind turned within. When the mind ends, only I remain. Then when the mind returns, it remembers that and goes, oh, there's nothing there. That insight, that aha occurs to the subtle intellect. So the best way I've found to be able to illustrate it is with a worldly example. Bring your attentive faculty to the waistband of your trousers or your skirt if you're wearing one. Is the waistband too tight, too loose, or just right? It's just right. Now, the instrument for feeling the waistband of your trousers or skirt is your skin. That direct experience has been going on since you put your pants on this morning. But what we did was a second process called reflection. I did not reflect on something abstract. If you have a 42-inch waist and you wear a pair of pants that are 32-inch, it's going to be uncomfortable. That's some intellectual idea. No, go to your direct experience. Do your pants fit? Oh, yeah, they feel fine. The instrument for the direct experience of the waistband of your pants is skin. But I have now reflected on that direct experience. So too, what we do in Vedanta, it's called a Shabda Pramana. It's a means of knowledge through self, through the words. So we endeavor to tune you on. Then turn your mind's eye back on its source, the self. You tune the mind down. Drop everything. Use something external as a point of attention, like listening to traffic. Now, flip the attentive faculty. Who hears it? We could do is point. Traffic moving through empty space. And if in the subtle intellect you go, oh, I get it. There's nobody there. That is the pratyabhinyana. Now, did that change yourself? No. Was that the direct experience of the self? No. But that's what transforms the ignorant mind. When the self doesn't have any problems, it's my stupid mind. Any thoughts on this? So this is why the scriptures say, in a mind made very pure, in a mind that becomes like Vidya, a clear mirror, see your face before your mother's birth. And next verse.
भानुर्बिम्बं यथा चैष्ण्यं जले दृष्टं न चाम हसः बुद्धौ बोधो न तद्धर्मस्तेथैव स्याद्वे धर्मतः. Just as the reflection and the heat of the sun found in water do not belong to it, so consciousness, though perceived in the intellect, is not its quality, for it is of a nature opposite to that of the intellect.
Yeah. So even though in my subtle intellect I have the insight, aham brahmasmi, I am that. Where does it go at night? Gone. Self is not gone. The insight's gone. Oh, Jim, the scriptures say the man or woman of wisdom never sleeps. I'm staying up all night. No. It means the mind folds up into sleep. But I am always the illuminator of every mind state. You are not unconscious in deep sleep. You are conscious of nothing. It's like when you close your eyes, you're not blind. You are seeing the back of your eyelids, which obscures, occludes the experience of all the phenomenal objects. So you never sleep, but your mind sleeps. If I darken the room with blackout shades at night, I can't see anything, but I'm not blind. I'm seeing darkness. That's what deep sleep is. I is the witness of everything, and it is never absent. Don't believe me? Examine the direct experience. Next verse.
Two together.
Okay.
Chakshuryukta thiyo vrittir yatam pashyan luptratika drishtir drishta bhavedatma shrute shrota tatha bhaved kevalam manaso vrittim Pashyanmanta mate rajaha vigyata luptashatikva tatha shastram nahityataha. The self whose consciousness never goes out of existence is called the seer of seeing when it illumines that modification of the intellect which is connected with the eye. and similarly it is called the hearer of hearing, and so on. The unborn one is called the thinker of thought when it illumines that modification of the mind which is independent of external objects. It is called the knower as its power of consciousness never fails. So the Shruti says, the seeing of the seer is not destroyed.
So, just as my physical eye can look at the table, the sofa, the lamp, the eyeball is one, the objects it illumines are varied. The senses themselves are varied: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. But the mind that illumines them, that coordinates them, is one. The mind can be dealing with a thought, an image, a sense perception, a memory, a feeling. All of these phenomena that are subtle are varied. But who is the knower of it? The awareing the principle itself. Me. That is me. Best example I like to use is when you're looking at your laptop or your desktop. You have a monitor. The monitor is like what we call chitta, the stuff of mind. You are the knower of what's in your monitor. Is it your browser? Is it Google Chrome? Is it Microsoft Word? Is it Excel? Is it Facebook? What you see varies, and the monitor becomes the form of the program. So also, the stuff of mind becomes thinking, feeling, remembering, perception and senses, and egoism. But just like you are sitting in your chair, always knowing what's on the monitor, you are sthita. You stand still, motionless, watching the stuff of mind form all these things. Next verse.
ध्यायतीत्यभिकारित्वं तथा लेलायतीत्यपि अत्रस्तेनेति शुद्धत्वं तथा नन्वागतं श्रुतेः. That the self is immutable is known from the Shrutis, as if it were at rest and it moves as it were. That it is pure is known from other Shrutis, the thief in this state and unattached.
So here he's alluding to various scriptural passages. And as if it were moving, stuff like that. I always remember the conversation I heard. There was a delegate at one of Swamiji's camps, and he was planning things. And he says, Swamiji, when are you coming to Allahabad? Swamiji's answer was, I go nowhere. Allahabad passes in front of me. You go nowhere. movie of today passes in front of you. All that remains of yesterday is memory. Remember what you did yesterday. Are you sure you did that, or did you dream it? All you know is your mind has this thing you call memory. I love the experience of talking to a sibling or maybe a parent. Oh, do you remember when we were kids and we lived in so and such happened and you did blah, 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 blah. And your sibling says, I never did that. I never said that. You did da, 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 da. No, I didn't. Have you ever had that happen? Or with a childhood friend? What's real? You are real. All objective phenomena is mind. Don't worry. You are never touched. Or my loved one, I'm frightened, I feel insecure. Don't worry. They are okay. Doesn't mean to not be compassionate, but don't worry. Self and them is never touched, but they know it all. Frequently, that's a little bit harder. Next verse.
Shatyalopata sushupte yastatha bodha vikarataha yeyasyeva visheshastu yatra veti shrutirvachaha. The self is conscious even in deep sleep, as well as in waking and dreaming, as its power of consciousness never ceases to exist, and as it is changeless. It is only in the objects of knowledge that there is a difference, in dreamless sleep, as the Shruti says, when there is.
So we talked about this a couple of verses back. Here he directly addresses it. So it is the mind that goes through waking, dream, and deep sleep. Let me give you back to our computer example. So I have a program on my computer called Zoom Text, which is for people with visual problems, and it magnifies things and it'll read things to me and stuff like that. So when I click on Zoom Text, a little orange box starts, and then all of a sudden my monitor goes to black screen. Wait a minute, where did my desktop go? And then all of a sudden it comes back with big icons as Zoom Text takes over. So deep sleep is like when it makes my desktop go black. The computer's not shut off. I am not blind. I am seeing a black screen. Then all of a sudden the icons come, waking or dream sleep. The other classic example that's used is we use the law of memory. help us see how we are conscious in deep sleep. The law of memory is the rememberer and the experiencer must be the same entity. You cannot remember something you haven't directly experienced, meaning you were there. So, Aditi, did you sleep well last night?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Did I sleep well?
I don't know.
Why not?
Because I wasn't there.
You weren't there. If you had slept well, have you slept well in the past?
Yes.
So you remember it.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't move the whole night. I woke up in the same position I went to bed in. Just feel so rested. But you cannot remember something you didn't experience. If you were unconscious in deep sleep, did you sleep well last night? I don't know. I wasn't there. No one has that experience. Now, let's make this very simple. No one ever got enlightened in deep sleep. If the idea, am I conscious or am I not conscious in deep sleep, is problematic, don't worry about it. Just put it on the shelf. Self-realization takes place in the waking state. That's where you want to focus. You don't want to say, oh, I'm trying to be conscious during my dreams. Don't worry about it. You have plenty to work on right here in the waking state. Any thoughts on this? All right, next one.
Vyavadhanadhi paroksham lokadrishtera drishtaratma sarupatvat pratyakshan brahma tasmritam. The consciousness of objects, which arises out of the functioning of the eye, etc., is immediately known, for it depends on an intervening reflection of the self in order to be known. As it is the self of phenomenal consciousness, Brahman is immediately known.
So, i.e., through the various means of knowledge, know everything gross and subtle. The means of knowledge, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, is necessary for me to know the phenomenal world. So many of you know that I'm legally blind. I was at a meeting last night and I walked up to this person who I thought was my friend Greg. I got up to them and I was going to talk to Greg and I went, oops, it's not Greg. Very embarrassing. I thought you were someone else. I was not functioning. The means of knowledge was defective. Therefore, the cognition of the object of knowledge was not correct. I don't know about Mark, Deming, or David, whether or not you're yet old enough to have your hearing start to be a problem.
Yep.
What'd you say? Did I hear a laugh out there in Zoom land?
Yeah, I experienced that too, yeah.
So the pramana, the means of knowledge, is getting defective, which means I don't have clear perception of the object of knowledge. Knower, knowing, know. So the entire phenomenal world, gross and subtle, is known by that triplicity, that triple factor. Now, for Mark and David, here's another one. How's your memory doing?
Yep.
What was that person's name? What was their name? So even at the subtle level, nowhere through Mana's mind, memory, oops. Come on, the means of knowledge is defective. So I do not properly cognize the object of knowledge. But even if you can't see, you can't hear clearly, you can't remember, I am. I am always there. I am always self-evident. Knower, knowing, and known is all merged in me. I am the knower. I is its own means of knowledge. I is that which is known, never as an object. But I am not unknown, I'm me. How do you know it? I don't know, I just do. Now, listen carefully. At one stage of our sadhana, we're trying to remember who we are all the time. Oh yeah, I am not the body, mind, intellect, I am Brahman. Understand that is not the direct experience of the self. That is jnana abhyasa, the practice of knowledge, to help the mind break that false identification. So let's say you're not thinking, I am Brahman, and instead you're thinking chopping vegetables or washing dishes, making the bed. Have you disappeared because you didn't think about yourself? No. That's like the person who walks around with a hand mirror in front of them. What are you doing? I'm making sure I don't cease to exist. Put the mirror down. Oh no, I can't, I'll disappear. No. But in the end, even that jnana abhyasa, you can drop back to. When are you ever not? So for the person of steady wisdom, just like for the ordinary person, it takes no effort to know you have a human body. You don't wake up in the morning and think like the character in the Kafka short story. Oh my God, I'm a cockroach this morning. You go about your business and you know you have a human body. There's no doubt. You don't need to be looking into the mirror all the time to make sure you haven't become a cow or a horse. Likewise, for the person of steady wisdom, when you really, really have sthita prajna, steady wisdom, know always what your essential nature is. No doubt. All right, we'll end here. What verse are we on for next week?
41.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha.